the Trump administration's climate report has ignited fierce criticism, with experts branding it a blatant distortion of science. But here's where it gets controversial. A team of over 85 of America's top climate scientists has meticulously dissected this report, exposing it as biased, error-ridden, and fundamentally lacking in scientific integrity. This comprehensive 434-page critique targets a U.S. Department of Energy (DOE) document authored by 5 carefully selected researchers known for their fringe views. The DOE report, released in July, downplays the severity of global warming and its impacts, arguing that the climate crisis has been exaggerated. However, the scientists' review reveals that the report is plagued by widespread misrepresentation, selective use of scientific studies, cherry-picked data, and flawed or missing statistical analysis. Andrew Dessler, a respected climate scientist at Texas A&M University, didn't mince words. This report makes a mockery of science. He explained that the document leans on outdated ideas long dismissed by the scientific community, distorts the broader body of climate research, omits crucial facts, and relies heavily on anecdotes and confirmation bias. Dessler emphasized that the DOE's approach shows a clear disinterest in genuine scientific dialogue. Lucas Vargas Cepitello, an environmental scientist from the University of California, Berkeley, expressed his shock and dismay at what he called a total disgrace of a report. He joined numerous volunteer researchers from leading institutions to set the record straight. This detailed review is being submitted during the public comment period on the DOE report, which closes on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Chris Wright, the U.S. Energy Secretary, defended the report, claiming it challenges the so-called cancel culture Orwellian squelching of science, and insisted the authors were free to write without political interference. Yet, the vast majority of climate scientists have condemned the report as a farce, pointing out that it serves more as a political tool to justify rolling back climate regulations than as a legitimate scientific assessment. Andra Garner, a climate scientist at Rowan University, summed up the frustration. Spending weeks correcting cherry-picked data in a government report wasn't on my summer agenda, but it was necessary. When asked for comment, DOE spokesperson Ben Dieterich stated that unlike previous administrations, the Trump administration is committed to fostering a more thoughtful and science-based conversation about climate change and energy. The scientists' review highlights 4 major criticisms of the DOE report. 1. The authors. The problems began with the selection of the report's authors. 5 climate skeptics handpicked by the DOE. These include John Christie, who has suggested climate change might be beneficial; Judith Curry, known for her opposition to what she calls climate alarmism; Stephen E. Koonin, who describes climate science as unsettled; Ross McKittrick, an economist who downplays the climate crisis; and Roy Spencer, a meteorologist who argues that scientists exaggerate human impact on climate. While Energy Secretary Wright praised these authors for their rigor and honesty, the review points out that all are notorious for sowing doubt about climate science. This selection arguably violates a 1972 law requiring balanced viewpoints in federal advisory committees, suggesting the group was assembled to push a predetermined agenda. 2. Lack of peer review and transparency. Federal advisory committees are supposed to operate transparently and allow public input, but this group met in secret, and their work was kept from public scrutiny. According to Office of Management and Budget rules, such assessments should undergo peer review, yet the DOE report has not been formally reviewed by independent experts. When it became clear DOE would not organize this, the scientific community stepped in to conduct their own rapid review. This process also contradicts a May executive order from the president mandating that only peer-reviewed, conflict-free science should inform policy decisions. Abigail Swan, a professor at the University of Washington, stressed the importance of relying on scientifically vetted assessments rather than unreviewed, biased documents. 3. Cherry-picked evidence. The DOE report selectively highlights scientific studies that support its narrative, while ignoring the broader, more robust evidence. For instance, it references the extreme heat of the 1930s Dust Bowl, but neglects to consider global temperature trends or the context of current climate change. It also overemphasizes the sun's role in warming and downplays the climate's sensitivity to carbon emissions. Experts like Dessler and Pamela McElwee from Rutgers University criticize the report for misunderstanding climate science and relying on a patchwork of unsupported claims. Unlike the DOE's rushed 4-month effort, major climate assessments like those from the IPCC involve hundreds of experts and multiple rounds of rigorous review. The DOE report also suffers from numerous errors due to the author's lack of expertise in certain areas, and it disproportionately cites the author's own work, about 11% of citations, far exceeding norms seen in comprehensive reports. 4. Predetermined political agenda. The DOE report was released amid efforts by the Trump administration to overturn the 2009 endangerment finding, a critical EPA determination that greenhouse gases threaten public health. Repealing this finding would effectively dismantle U.S. policies aimed at reducing emissions from vehicles and power plants. The scientists' review argues that the DOE report was crafted not as an impartial scientific document, but as political cover to support this rollback. Although DOE spokesperson Dieterich claimed the administration values science and has not prejudged the report's impact on policy, the sidelining of credible scientists and promotion of the report's conclusions suggest otherwise. Christopher Callahan, a climate scientist at Indiana University, pointed out that opposing scientific evidence was ignored or dismissed, making it clear the report was designed to back a specific policy decision, rather than provide an unbiased overview of climate science. This entire episode raises important questions. Should government climate assessments be influenced by political agendas? How can the scientific community ensure transparency and integrity in such reports? And what happens when science becomes a battleground for ideology rather than a tool for understanding our planet's future? We invite you to share your thoughts. Do you agree with the scientists' harsh critique, or do you see merit in the DOE's approach? Let's discuss in the comments below.